Supra, Celica, MR2. What did these three cars have in common? Toyota. What else did they have in common? They became popular during the 90s and they died off in the early 2000s. Throughout the 90s, there was what car enthusiasts refer to as the JDM craze. This is when every Japanese car manufacturer had at least 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 sports cars in their lineup. You're probably wondering what caused the JDM craze, and that answer is quite simple. Japan's economy was absolutely booming. However, towards the early 2000s, things began to slow down and creating sports cars simply wasn't viable in the market. There's actually 2 main variables that went into Toyota killing 3 of its most amazing sports cars. The first one being that Japan's economy began to slow, and for Toyota to remain profitable, they had to kill off these sports cars. The second variable falls under the first one. People simply were not buying these sports cars as much anymore. People were going towards sedans, hatchbacks, and even trucks, which led to Toyota not making as much money off of these sports cars, and they simply could not justify keeping them in their lineup. By the 2010s, Toyota's lineup was looking very boring. They didn't have any sports cars, and their most fun vehicle, if you could call it fun, was the Toyota Corolla S, which was a slightly sportier version of the Toyota Corolla. And with this, Toyota became boring. But they weren't planning on staying boring for long. Unbeknownst to us as enthusiasts, Toyota and Subaru joined together and decided to make a cheap, fun, affordable sports car. It was essentially going to be the Toyota Subaru Miata. The car was sold as the Scion FRS and Subaru BRZ. If you guys don't know, the Scion brand was essentially Toyota's brand that was geared towards younger car buyers, trying to get more people interested in the Toyota brand. However, since 2016, it ceased production. The BRZ and FRS gained so much praise that it put Toyota back on the map, and they became fun, kind of. You see, we as enthusiasts tend to complain, even when things are looking up. And due to the many years of complaining about the cancellation of the Supra, Toyota came out with a concept car. It was called the FT-1. FT stood for Future Toyota. This car absolutely hyped up enthusiasts because it took many cues from the then gone for over a decade Mark IV Toyota Supra. Some called it ugly, and some saw it as a step in the right direction. It depends on what stance you took on it. But one thing was for certain, we were getting a Supra. And now we're coming up on 2016. Straying away from the Supra for a minute, we have to talk about the Scion FRS. With the Scion brand being killed that year, the FRS was rebranded to the Toyota GT86. By now, fans lost a lot of hope that there would ever be a Mark V Supra. But in 2019, the launch edition of the Mark V Supra became available. Car enthusiasts everywhere were hyped up for all the right reasons. We finally got a successor to the famous Mark IV Supra. There was only one downside, but it's a downside depending on who you ask. It used a BMW engine. It was built on the BMW Z4 platform. It was a rebadged Z4 with the body kit. Many people complained about the BMW engine, but I think there is a bigger issue. There was no manual option, and after years of outcry and complaining from fans, we finally have a manual Mark V Toyota Supra. Looking back, the Mark V Supra is so much better in every way than the Mark IV. Sure, you might not like the styling, but that's subjective, and not everybody will. Not only is it more powerful, it has a 6-speed manual, amazing tuning potential, and despite being a BMW engine, Toyota tested it and it passed their regulations and standards. It is a true Toyota Supra. Toyota launched their GR sub-brand, which stood for Gazoo Racing. Their GR sub-brand, which is more of a trim, if that, was used on many of their cars. The GT86, with its newest generation starting in 2022, was renamed the GR86. The Mark V Supra was renamed the GR Supra. Over in Japan, there was a car named the GR Yaris, however, we never got it in North America. And in early 2022, Toyota showed us a concept that blew our minds. This hatchback, the GR Toyota Corolla. This car has a 3-cylinder, that's small, making 300 horsepower compared to a 6-speed manual and all-wheel drive. This will blow the doors off of any hatchback, a Veloster, a GTI, any hatchback. Toyota is killing it. Toyota is fun again. Sure, we don't have a Celica. Sure, we don't have an MR2. But we have cars that nobody would have ever dreamed were possible. And with rumors coming in every day about Toyota making a new MR2, a new Celica, it might be possible. With Toyota making some of the coolest cars that you can get right now, this has sparked so much competition from Nissan, Volkswagen, every brand that you could possibly imagine. With Nissan having the new 400Z, Volkswagen's going to have to up the power on their GTI to match the Corolla. Mazda is going to have to improve the Miata to stay on top of the GR86 and BRZ. Toyota has started the second JDM craze, and we are living through the middle of it. This is the story of how Toyota went from fun to boring to legendary. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe for more content, and leave a comment telling me which car brand I should talk about next.